All right, to this story now. The Ingonyama Trust Board has briefed the media in the last hour following the collapse of yesterday's engagement with the board. Now, the board was meant to launch a participatory forum that would address land issues under the trust, but the meeting collapsed after Amakhosi walked out following the Zulu King's criticism of the meeting. Our reporter Silethiwe Ndlovu has been following the proceedings for us, and she joins us live. Silethiwe, good evening to you. The board has been briefing, as we say, in the last hour. Central message that they drove out from the CEO. What was the thrust of that message? And presumably this is day 2 of this forum. How well attended has it been?
Well, Xoli, what I can tell you is that the board states that they will be proceeding with the engagement. And this is despite the Zulu King, King Mr. Zulu, stating that he had no knowledge of the engagement and also had not blessed the engagement. Yesterday, from our observations, there was quite a number of Amakhosi and Izinduna and government officials that were gathered inside the room here at the Durban ICC. But it would, of course, be after lunch when most of them left. Today, however, we understand that some of them did make it back, but while the others, and this is now Amakhosi, did not return. And I'm going to bring in now the acting CEO of the Ingonyama Trust Board. I want to start off by speaking about the engagement. You are proceeding with it despite what the Zulu King has stated?
All right, maybe let's correct that because the traditional prime minister told us. So how the board generally works is it works on regulation. And that's quite important because this was a technical engagement of the board. It doesn't necessarily require the traditional prime minister's position. With that being said, if His Majesty is not present in board, the regulation is quite clear with regards to succession matters. The regulations of Ingonyama Trust don't allow for a vacuum in instances where there could be one. So with that being said, we have, between yesterday and today, poked some holes and brought to question the Prime Minister's assertions and allegations. He went and pulled a letter that was dated 2024 and said that that was His Majesty's current expression. If you recall, His Majesty would have attempted to suspend the board in December 2024. So those tensions would have been, as a result, or culminated into that attempted dismissal. There hasn't been any information that has gone out to the public between then and now what has happened. So it looks a bit opportunistic for anyone then to try and come in between His Majesty and his board and try and intervene, particularly when they have no such power in law. Ingonyama Trust Act, again, is quite clear, which is why we're here, because there's an act of parliament that is national status that needs to be implemented. In that piece of legislation, there is a mandate that this board is given. It's given a mandate to administer Ingonyama Trust and administer Ingonyama Trust land for the benefit, material welfare, and social well-being of communities, Izizwe, living on Ingonyama Trust land. That has nothing to do with any of the struggles that either of us could have outside. This is a technical session that has to do with ukuphathwa kwenhlabathi. It's a technical session that has to do with land management and land administration, competencies that sit with Induna who do land allocations.
Opportunistic for anyone to come between the board and the king, but once again, these are long-standing issues between the board and the king.
Time has passed, so we must ask ourselves what has happened during the time. One of our presentations that demystified a lot of what happened yesterday was a financial performance presentation that presents a model of what Ingonyama Trust is supposed to be, and we then brought a picture to Amakhosi and traditional authority members that reflects whether this organization has been functioning in alignment with its mandate. And that's clearly been a no for the past 3 decades. And as a result, the walking back of those fixes that we have to do require us to have open, robust conversations. Often those conversations then get interrupted by various interests. We have a lot of investigations that are underway, some of which are at advanced stages that touch on millions of rands that have been misappropriated from Ingonyama Trust. If we understand the Ingonyama Trust model, it is quite a set model, meaning that its finances are quite strictly determined, and therefore the movement of funds, including disbursements, are quite easily traceable. If the board does spend money without consulting Izizwe in terms of what their needs are, the board, we believe, is erring. So these conversations allow us to consult Amakhosi, to consult traditional authorities with regards to working mechanisms. Once imali has come into Ingonyama Trust from Izizwe, how do they go about accessing it for disbursement? What are we looking for? What must those disbursements reflect? Those are the types of things that we are worried about in conversation. Everything else we view as opportunistic distraction that results in us not getting to ingigiti yendaba, which is how do we work as Ingonyama Trust, Ingonyama Trust Board, traditional councils, and the community Izizwe to make sure that this model of ours works adequately. Now, there is interest in this model from other people too. So, sinenzelelo, we have a real responsibility to other communal communities to work this model so that we can reveal its challenges and we can reform it to ensure that it works for everyone.
Siyamdumisa Vilakazi, the acting CEO of the Ingonyama Trust Board. Coming from that conversation, Xoli, as you can hear, he states that it seems as if there's people that are coming between the board, or rather there are people that are interfering with the dealings of the king and the board. However, from the engagement that took place yesterday, we heard that once again the Zulu King had not blessed the engagement. The Minister of Land Reform and Rural Development also drafting a letter on the 4th of December stating that he is considering placing 4 board members on special leave, and this is now during the Moirane investigations. However, we understand that the engagement at this particular point is continuing and it will end sometime tomorrow.